Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Newman Bond podcast. I'm Emily Simon. I work in campus ministry here at Newman University, and I am joined today by student Charles Morrison, who as of March 17th, 2024, has entered the Catholic Church. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And welcome to the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're just going to talk a little bit about your faith journey and that experience of coming into the Catholic Church, what that was all like. So,
all right, I'm excited.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about yourself to start off. Where are you from? What are you studying here at Newman? Where are you headed after Newman? All those good things.
So I'm Charles, as she has said. I grew up here in Wichita. Born and raised all the years of my life. Here at Newman, I'm a biology pre-med major. And sorry, what was the last half of that question?
Oh, where are you going after Newman? Because
this
is your last semester, right?
Yeah, my last semester. So that's been exciting. Yeah, graduation is coming up really quick. And I would be so grateful for any opportunity to attend a med school. And I honestly have been feeling a call to specifically like neurology. I think that would be really cool. So
very cool.
Yeah.
Very nice. Any interests or hobbies that? Yeah.
Not entirely relevant, but
that's okay.
But yeah, I'm a guy. I've always been a big music guy. I started in orchestra in 6th grade, and since then I've always been keeping up the talents that God's given me. I play a lot of instruments like piano and violin and guitar. And it's just such a gratifying, beautiful thing to experience and give people when you're allowed,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you play very beautifully in the chapel. Even when you think nobody is listening, every time I walk by, I'm like, oh yes, that's beautiful.
Yeah,
so tell me a little bit about your faith journey. So was practicing faith something that you did growing up?
So my background, I've always had the background of this picture of Christianity to follow. My strongly came from my mother and my grandmother, and we've been more Protestant. And in my young years, I'd never really understood it quite yet. And those happen to be the years where we more regularly attended things like church and had more full family get-togethers for holidays to like Christmas time, what a great time to talk about Jesus. But I think later on in my life, that waned a little bit. People were just really busy. It was a hectic thing. And I just never had that understanding that your spiritual side is something you really need to feed and maintain, just like, food and water and your hobbies just for entertainment, these other things. This is a necessary element. Coming to Newman, it's my first, it's a Catholic school, very relevant, of course, my exposure here to learning more about faith has really only come in the later years, surprisingly. But it's also my first private school, and so it's just been a really unique kind of a sudden change of things. Maybe we can lead into that more.
Yeah, what kind of changes did you notice here at Newman that was maybe different from going to public school?
Yeah. Well, how do I put this? It's let's just say, so college definitely selects for different kinds of people. Okay. Usually at the time of college, you don't have people that are kind of forced to be in school. They're usually doing it by choice, right? So just being surrounded by people who really want to be here, that's nice. Usually comes with less bitterness and more happy, good people. But without the full story, I'm also convinced that it's also the Catholic faith here that's enriched, and the Holy Spirit that's enriched these people and made them so happy and good to be around. So that's honestly, yes, the people is the biggest thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so getting more into your journey specifically to the Catholic Church, was there a particular moment that you felt this call to explore the Catholic faith more, or what were kind of the things that led up to that decision?
Yeah, so for me, I guess it's hard to put my finger on it because it's almost felt like it came by accidentally.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was introduced to some friends through just some like totally unrelated clubs, and they happened to be part of the campus ministry here on campus all along. And just happening to start a new semester in the same class as this person, right next to them, same seat, I was just invited to come to a retreat that was held. And I'd only ever really known about or been exposed to the good conversation from everyone who's involved in the campus ministry here through maybe one other particular night. And it was a very intellectual discussion, something about utilitarianism and things like that. I don't remember all the details, but that set up some fun first impressions.
I'm sure.
But yeah, like it still wasn't super connected to it. So if I were to really put my finger down on like one event that made me feel called to this, like at the beginning I did not understand like the full extent of what it would be. It'd probably have to be, so the retreat I mentioned was that I was invited to. I was allowed to participate in like the mass we held there, and I didn't get it. And I'd been to church before too, but being there in it's the same but different. I'd have to explain a lot more, I feel, but I think it's okay to say that I felt like something was really unique about it, and just the reverence of everyone else in that service. So I felt like I just hadn't been exposed to that in my life, I think. So it really struck me then, even though I didn't really understand why. And just from then on, be it just like how things ended up, or that I actually felt that way. Like I just wanted to be more involved with campus ministry since then. And yeah, I think I've kept that pretty well. Yeah.
I don't know if it was the first event that you came to, but like the first event that I really remember seeing you at, it was a campus ministry night, Wednesday night. We were doing a debate. Father Adam and I were arguing against students about relativism. I think that was the general topic, which is a horrible topic to debate because it is so complicated, and you can't really squish it down into a short amount of time. But you were there and just asking really, really good questions, and I remember that specifically.
So this was probably the night I was mentioning. I said utilitarianism because I think that came in.
Oh yeah,
it was such
a
big conversation.
It was a very intellectually dense campus ministry night, which is not always the case. Yes, very cool. So I guess as part of this journey here at Newman, are there moments, if you feel comfortable sharing, that you've really felt like God is working in your life, like moments that you knew He was present, or leading you on?
Yeah, man, it's like I feel like I don't have a big dramatic story that all of a sudden like some miracle before my eyes, you know.
And that's okay.
But certainly a bunch of small things. I feel like, I understood. I understand the idea that to have faith is just to have trust, that you won't always know for certain. And so to work with that and to look back through my life and try to connect things, especially as I was just a part of really great conversation just in the office, I just come by, spend certain afternoons in the office with some of the guys, and just opened my eyes to things that I didn't necessarily have time to study or look into with some of my major and its classes in the science building, you know. I feel like I really had to, just in this last year, like go on an untraveled road to just to Sacred Heart, just to like meet some people and learn more about them and hang out and just be open to learning more. And so all these little things I've been learning along the way, it's just like every lesson is something I would go, and when I would have that time in Mass, because I wanted to maintain that, you know, I knew that I felt different about it. So there's plenty of time for self-reflection, and I just was accruing with all these small lessons I was gaining. I was just like looking back through my life and seeing how that just applies, and that it felt good. Yeah. One memory that sticks out to me is that it's like I just woke up one morning and then it's a total feeling, like intuition-based thing, but I was just like, when I was looking at nature, when I was just walking to my classes, all the mundane things, I felt just way more filled with gratitude for all the small stuff, and knew to attribute that to my growth in faith and what was given to me, you know.
Yeah, I really do think sometimes those moments where you recognize God most clearly in your life are very simple. Like I had a similar experience. I went on a retreat, and it was a very beautiful place that I was at, and I was just sitting outside on a porch, and there were birds all around that were just kind of flying in and out, and one of them like sat on a beam like right in front of me and just was sitting there for a couple of seconds. And it's a very like minuscule thing, but I like very clearly felt like, okay, God is present in this moment. And this is in some way a gift to me. So yeah, I don't know. Sometimes they're very simple moments, but they have a big impact.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of indescribable, but
Yeah.
you just like, it might not be satisfying to some people listening, but it is kind of that simple. It's like, you just know, you just feel it. Yeah. So
in the Catholic Church, when you want to enter the Catholic Church, take the sacraments, you go through a process called the Rite of Christian Initiation for Adults, also known as the Order of Christian Initiation for Adults. So RCIA, OCIA, it's the same thing.
yeah.
And so when did you decide officially to start classes? Because it's really what it is. It's classes to learn more about the Catholic faith and make sure this is, steps that you want to take closer and closer to, entering the Catholic Church.
Yeah, good question. It's funny, like, that also kind of feels like an accident, if I'm honest with you. Maybe there are no accidents, right? Maybe
I don't think there are.
That's just what was planned for you all along, which I do strongly believe. But it honestly happened, it was last summer. So we were holding, you guys were holding RCI class over the summer.
Yes.
And I remember the semester before summer started, I was kind of dreading. I was like, I'm kind of being a fan of like being a workaholic and having the school schedule. And I was like, gosh, what am I going to do, you know, when summer starts? I didn't want to just have too much leisure time. I wanted to know how to keep myself busy. Yeah, weird stuff, I know.
Great reason to start RCIA.
Yeah, I don't know. I just had some friends who were like, it was kind of just another invitation thing. And I knew they were there. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I'm aware, like, I don't read enough of the Bible, and I just wanted to learn more. And I knew at this point in my life that, like, that was necessary. And I thought, why not? You know, I could still find a reason to maintain kind of a similar schedule. I just came to campus, attending the classes every week or so. But yeah, the summer did end up getting busy, and I didn't go through that course that summer to completion. And, you know, it wasn't even necessarily that I was like feeling called to pursue the Catholic faith. I think what I learned more than anything that summer, with me and all the others who were there, who were asking all these great questions, I was just slowly realizing, like, yeah, the Catholic faith isn't maybe as different or strange, that I may have been told at a younger age by arbitrary people. So I was just learning, like, this isn't strange. This isn't actually very hard to understand either. And I can understand, like, these elements a little better. But no, at this point, I did not feel particularly called to pursue the Catholic faith. And so when the next semester started, that's when I was just in the same class as one of my friends. They invited me to the retreat that campus ministry was holding at the beginning of that semester, and the ball just started rolling. And then I heard that the class was being taught again this last semester. So I thought, like, hey, I did not finish that out, and I think with what I've been gaining from my attendance of daily mass, that this was just a good idea.
Yeah, I've been impressed by your entire journey, particularly because you have been attending Mass on a very regular basis, almost as much as you can, even before you could receive fully the Eucharist. And so it's been kind of emotional because your dedication to that has finally been fulfilled and being able to receive the Eucharist.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you started RCA last semester, and then that ended. Traditionally, people come into the church during the Easter Vigil Mass, but we don't have that at Newman because we're a chapel, not a full parish. But we also wanted to make sure that you could experience the Triduum, so that Holy Thursday, Good Friday, Holy Saturday, fully in the church. So you actually entered the church March 17th.
A little early.
Yep, a little bit before Easter, but you were ready.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah. So the experience itself, that Mass, what was that like for you?
Oh, that Mass. Oh,
yes.
Man. So many things. I think the strongest thing is it's just most important to say first. That night at the end of it, it was there the whole time. And I finally put words to it in conversation with somebody right after. I'm like, I think that's just the most, like, love that I felt in a long time. And, like, not just, like, people that are happy for you. It's just, like, it was just there in the Mass, in the service. All of the beautiful support. And it was finally, like, the culmination of, like, I'm ready to commit to this. I remember getting jitters right before. Like, I felt like I was so ready for it. And then when you finally know, it's like, hey, there's 1 week left. You're like, like, it happens every time. It's kind of uncontrollable. So, but I got to the day, and it was just like, that week before, it was like another step. Like, I felt God telling me, like, are you sure you're sure? Like, I felt like I always had these steps, like these challenges where God was like, you need to be sure of this. You need to be sure of this. And if you are, keep going. And so that last week, that certainly happened. And the night of, it was, I don't know, surreal. It's hard to put it into words, really. Like, it kind of does it at this service. I was just, after all of my contemplating and waiting and participating, and at the beginning, I felt like definitely felt like an outsider. I think it's a normal response, but, painful nonetheless. And that wasn't at the forefront as time went on, but I definitely had been contemplating and anticipating this for a long time. And then that was just finally the culmination of, like, this is finally it. You're saying the oath and the creed, and you're going through with it, and finally, receiving the Eucharist. And it was beautiful.
So one of the sacraments you received that night was confirmation. And we traditionally, when you receive confirmation, you take a saint's name, kind of as a little bit like your own patron saint. So what saint did you choose?
I chose good old Saint Joseph.
Saint Joseph. Yeah. Wonderful. What was the reasoning behind Saint Joseph? Other than him just, like, being like, you're gonna choose me.
Yeah, super. Right. And
sometimes saints,
beyond him just being, like, just a cool guy, I didn't let his like facade impress me. Just didn't say yes. But I, for a lot of reasons, really, I think to really pull one of the strongest ones for me is I think in this last semester, I guess some background is there's another thing that Catholic guys get together and do that's called Exodus 90. And it's just like what that process is. It's 90 days. If you're familiar with Lent, it's kind of like an extended Lent. And you start a fraternity with some guys with similar aims. You want to craft this why statement for why, because the program aims to like help you give up some distractions in your life and refocus on what matters. Your faith, your relationships, and so for every guy it looks a little different, but you are journeying through your daily commitments of asceticism and practicing prayer, and you're journeying through the book of Exodus, because Moses leads his people from slavery, and that really embodies a really core essence to what that is. But like the patron saint of that was Saint Joseph. Okay. So when I was crafting my why statement, which is something you could return to and remind yourself why you're doing these things that are difficult, I guess I don't know maybe how to specifically explain it, but what I understood is that as a man, I knew that, I know in all these ways that Jesus wants us to give us our identity and to give us that role. And I think he calls all men to be a good father in some sense of the word, of that role. You can do it in many ways. Like, you don't have to have kids. You could be a great father with no kids and no family. And you could be a terrible father with kids, right? But I think for guys, you need to, like, he would love for you to want to grow into that role and give back. And nature of that is just like, try to be self-sacrificing for the things and the people that you love. And it definitely helped put more meaning to my whole journey through Exodus. It's supposed to be difficult. So that's what helped me stay to the difficult and not give up on it. So this whole semester I've been meditating on, like, what does that really mean, though? It's like, what is this identity that I'm being given? And what would Jesus like me to grow into? And what does it look like? And so that's always been a thought. I've always had that in my prayer on the daily. And so at the end of it, like, there's plenty of great saints, of course. They're all great. And I've had plenty of inspiration from, like, Newman. Newman's great. Yeah, we're named after a good one.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess I don't regret my choice for Saint Joseph. I don't. Wonderful man. But it's like Saint Newman was a good one as well. It's like he was also someone who struggled with that question of should he convert, you know? And well, he did. So, and I've been exploring that more in his writings too about that subject recently. But Saint Joseph, he's just, he's the patron of fathers. It's just like, it's such a beautiful thing. So
it's hard to beat Saint Joseph. Yeah. But Saint Newman is a great patron saint for everybody going through that process of conversion, since he did it himself. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So would you have any advice for someone who is thinking about going through RCIA or just has more questions about the Catholic faith?
Yeah. So if I'm really honest,
you can be honest.
I don't think just the class would have convinced me. Okay. I think it is possible to be convinced through that class. I think that's very, very reliant on just the kind of questions and intentionality you have in like seeking the truth in what you're taught. Okay, because that's your belief's only going to be as strong as how much you doubted it and then reconciled what is true. So yeah, it's going to be really hinged on like the people and your questions in that class. But absolutely, it was my choice to involve myself in good Catholic people, like with good Catholic people, and just get to know them. Not with any motive. It's not like I knew that this would be good at the start or would be the best choice. I was just open to it, and I had a good feeling about it from the get-go. That got me started. But just this exposure and open conversation and really being open to learning and keeping my heart open to that was vital. So I guess if someone's going through it, I don't know if you'd be totally outside of, like, not so unknowledgeable of anything, but the key would be to really think about it. Don't just take everyone's word. It's important to, like, you might be worried about having doubt if you really care about that faith, but like, know that that's actually necessary in a way so you can fix things and make it stronger. But definitely ask good questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. And honestly, yes, do your best to get in a good community of that. This would apply to honestly anything. It's like, if you want something, you should go get involved with people who are good at that or could help you, or and be good at making friends and be honest about it. Really genuine. I think that's a good way to summarize that. Some good advice, I'd say.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't think a conversion should be a purely intellectual process. You might get that impression with people like St. Newman who, are writing these massive, beautiful works about, the truth of the faith. But it's not about just answering all of your questions to then make that jump, I think, into the Catholic Church. There's got to be a part of your heart and your imagination that comes into it as well. And
absolutely.
I'm so grateful that there were those people that helped you with that part of your journey as well, because it's fundamental.
I think if I can add on to that, like I feel like it's like I would be a good example of someone who just naturally has grown up as a analytical, an analytical person. And I've always loved science, and this is all involved. But I think it's really easy to fall into like an intellectual pride thing, like to convince yourself that like you won't be convinced unless you actually know, and that's kind of the mystery of it. It's like, well, it's reasonable to understand that you won't probably fully understand anything if you wanted to get deep enough into any kind of subject, but God's a mystery to everybody, and so that faith is just necessary. You won't be able to figure it out and be 100% sure, but at least through the intellect, that's an important element of faith, that someone who was really maybe really like step-by-step methodical, like scientific thinking, like analytical sort of person, think they would probably struggle with it at first. But just keep asking questions and know what it means to be open to it.
I'm scared to butcher this because it's St. Newman, and so he's such a complex writer and thinker, but I think he has like this image of like, how do we come to certitude, especially in matters of faith, because there's no way to have complete certitude about God and his mysteries, but he has this image of like a rope, that it's a whole bunch of like smaller threads that kind of come together to form the thickness that is secure, that it's not just the intellectual arguments, but it's also the people that are witnessing to you the Catholic faith and the joy of the Christian way of life. It's a lot of different things that kind of come together to build that certainty enough to make a profession of faith.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Mhm.
Well, any other things that you would like to share about your journey as we wrap up?
There's definitely too much to try to fit into
Yeah.
this, I think.
Probably.
Just to know that I think people might get scared about the thought of just practicing Catholicism, Christianity. Just seems scary, maybe because of the commitment. It's like, oh, it's such an obligation. It's so restricting, right? Rather, you should understand, like, when you actually get in there and learn, and especially when you want to, like, actually want to practice and show your love to Jesus in these sort of ways, it's not an obligation, it's a privilege, and it just gives you a lens with which to appreciate the rest of your life.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your journey and maybe encouraging others who find themselves in a similar place. And also saying that the campus ministry office is cool and people should hang out there.
It is.
Yeah.
Most days.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of the Newman Bond, which is the podcast of Newman University. We release episodes every first and third Tuesday at noon via YouTube. So thank you, and we'll see you for another episode. I was like, what? I have no idea.
I get a lot more blessings out of that.
Really fun experience.
Really the Newman experience.